When those unsafe spaces are created at home, I feel like we continue to feel unsafe in the world about our bodies. Belly became a movement of resistance because the minute you start to dress like that, the minute you start to move sensually, the minute you start to go on stage and present yourself as this very bold woman, you're already revolting against the system. Living sensually means to be involved in the experiences of the senses completely. So, how can I now embody all the qualities that make it that valuable, also being able to sell my art?
Some women follow the rules and some break them. And there are women like Meher Malik who don't even acknowledge the rules exist. She turned movement into a revolution, femininity into power, and belly dancing into a business empire in a country where women's bodies have been policed for generations. Today, we are not just talking about dance, we are talking about defiance, money, and making an impact that shakes culture to its core. Meher, your journey is so much bigger than just dance. It's about reclaiming space. Let's talk about what that truly means. And welcome to the Niya Desai Show.
Wow. So, firstly, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
I remember seeing you on India's Got Talent, and that was the first time I had seen somebody belly dancing. Because I grew up in India, I had not seen that dance form. It was such an eye opener because you were mesmerizing on the stage. India has a complicated relationship with women's bodies. You stepped into a space that was considered taboo and turned it into an empire, into a revolution. What was that moment, Meher, that you realized this was bigger than dance?
Well, to be very honest, belly dancing in itself is a revolution. So when we look at the history of belly dance, I mean, there's a cultural history, there's political history, there's a lot of things around it. But when you really go back in time, this is a dance form that's passed on from mother to daughter to prepare the womb to give birth. It may have not existed as a dancing style. We don't have enough factual information. But we've definitely realized there is a connection to the dance form being passed on from woman to woman. And on different in different books there are different accounts of different individuals who have spoken about how when a girl comes of age she comes and dances with the women together. And considering belly dancing is an Arab dance, a lot of the um a lot of the women that come from these cultures also find this secret kind of revolution inside the dance. So when you'll go to like an Arab wedding, for example, the men will celebrate separately and the women will celebrate separately. But when the women get together, it's not the same women that are outside on the roads. This is a completely new group of women who are enjoying their bodies, who are enjoying community, enjoying dance, music, and culture. There's been so much suppression of women. I think women claiming their bodies through practices like dance, ritual, and music and is already a revolution. But this is peaceful. It's an artistic revolution. I feel had the imprint of that. I lived in the Arab world for 17 years before I came to India in 2006. I realized that in India, there were two sides to the coin. One was that people were very, very closed to the dance per se. There was no difference between belly dancing and prostitution for the Indian market. They couldn't tell the difference. And there was another side to the coin, which was that they were really open to discover what it actually is. So there was curiosity. That's where I realized that the problem in itself could actually be the opportunity to educate people on belly dance. And belly dance became a movement of resistance because the minute you start to dress like that, the minute you start to move sensually, the minute you start to go on stage and present yourself as this very bold woman, you're already revolting against the system. Right? It continues to be that today because many women continue to claim their bodies and their relationship with their bodies through the art of belly dance.
I agree. Women in India have been wearing saris for generations, right? And there is so much skin that is shown in a sari. But saris are defined and defied as something very respectful versus the same woman when she dresses up in a jeans and a short skirt and that much stomach is visible, it's considered like you're showing off. And it's how our mindset works, how people perceive these things. I saw one 57-year-old woman dancing on YouTube. She did belly dancing for the first time and she started crying. She said that in decades she didn't feel like her body has moved the way that she felt at that moment. We say dance is healing, but it's also confrontation. You meet the parts of yourself you've been told to hide. You always talk about movement as liberation. What does that mean for a woman living in a society that constantly tells her to shrink herself?
Well, to be very honest, healing is confrontation. Confrontation is healing. So there isn't a distinction between the two because when you are on the journey of healing, you are confronting parts of yourself that are stuck in a loop, in a pattern, that are stuck in the past. When I talk about movement as liberation, what I truly mean here is the way that the current system is designed is unless I'm not achieving a goal or have something to achieve or prove, my life is of no use. I'm not worthy. Whereas when I say that movement is liberation, we have to move away from the structure of the patriarchal system, which is designed for the circadian rhythm of a man's body.
Mm,
Whereas a woman's body is extremely different. Her body has cycles, right? She's a
yes.
cyclical being. Her emotions are very different. Our brains are also designed very differently from each other. So when I say movement is liberation, what I'm really saying is, can we break away from these systems of I need to prove that thing to then make the money to then care for myself versus saying that I already live in something that is abundant. I already live in the temple of abundance. Like my body, all my perspectives, all my conceptions, all my activities are only possible because of this body. Now, I have disconnected myself from this body because I have goals to achieve and money to make and things to do. But when you come back to this body and say, first, I'm going to connect with this, I'm going to honor this, I'm going to respect this, everything else after that, that can it's in itself be an extremely liberating force because that makes you feel that you are living integrated. You're not living fragmented. Decisions can be felt in the body. Whether something's right or wrong for you can be felt in the body. But because we're so disconnected from it, we tend to believe the system before we believe ourselves. So
Mm,
the system has been designed to disconnect us from our bodies. But when we come back to our bodies, then the system doesn't force us to do things that we don't want to do. The system doesn't force us to stay sick, stay stressed. The system doesn't force us to rest less. When we connect with our bodies, we listen to its rhythms more. And that's where the liberation is, because that is a direct relationship to myself versus what the system tells me it should be.
yeah, wow, that's such a beautiful take. What is actually the biggest misconception about sensuality and femininity that you think that needs to be broken now that we are talking about this?
It's a very important question because seem to be addressing this all the time. One of the greatest misconceptions about sensuality and femininity is that sensuality is equal to sexuality.
Mm,
And for me, that's really absurd. Just because I want to move my body in a sensual way, that means that I'm asking for it, quote unquote, right? And you hear this all the time. When you watch these documentaries of rapists, they will say things like, she wanted it. Why did she dress like that if she didn't want it?
right.
This for me is the greatest delusion about sensuality. Because sensuality, if you really come to the crux of it, is living very embodied and fully through the senses. If I'm
Mm,
eating my food with absolute connection to it, it's to live sensually. If I want to really feel all the muscles in my shoulder, then that is to live sensually. Living sensually means to be involved in the experiences of the senses completely. Now, of course, if you're going to be living sensually, can you tell me that the jasmine or the rose is not going to evoke in you some sense of beauty and wonder and excitement? Of course, it's going to do that. But does that imply any sense of fornication associated with it? No. It's
yeah,
the enjoyment of the pleasures of life that sensuality is able to celebrate.
yeah.
Just because I want to feel my erotic energy in my body does not mean that I want to have sex with somebody. It does not mean that at all.
Absolutely.
And the more connected you get to your feminine wisdom, the more you are able to enjoy your erotic energy without actually wanting a man or a partner to do anything for you.
True.
Because as you get older, you don't want the validation anymore. You become so self fulfilled. You start to enjoy your beauty like it's your own.
Yeah, absolutely right. Femininity is often boxed into softness or submission, but true femininity, like you say, is fierce, fluid, intuitive. It's both about, nurturing and disruptive. And it's about wearing that red lipstick and like setting boundaries if that is what you feel like. It's embracing that curves that you have and your chaos at the same time. And so for me, to be feminine is not to shrink, is to, stand tall with softness, because as women, we are born with that softness. I'm also a coach, and I've told this to so many women that I coach, that femininity isn't your weakness, it's a thunder wrapped in velvet. And, you can imagine as you would like to, but being a woman has so many blessings if you look at the positive side of it. And we live in a world where there can be positives and negative, but it's so beautiful how you've portrayed and put this across. I just loved your perspective so much, Meher. You've also redefined what it means to own your body. Every time I see your video, I feel like this is something I have never done. I've never experienced my own body like that out of world experience. And what's the hardest part about being a woman in business in a world that sometimes profits off women's insecurities?
It's so funny. You and I kind of started talking about this before we actually started the interview, officially.
Yes,
I think that one of the greatest lies that's being sold to women is that they have to look a certain way to feel beautiful. And I feel like a man can get away with literally just wearing a pant, a t-shirt, just put on a watch, or maybe put on some perfume with the basics. Whereas with women, I feel like we're constantly sold this idea that if there's a wrinkle, it needs to be fixed. If your skin's drooping or if there's acne, you need to get treatment. If your hair's getting thinner, you need to get extensions done, go through these kind of treatments. Everything about the impermanence of beauty, I believe, is not addressed at all when it comes to women. Like, you will always even see popular, famous men that would still be dating women 10, 15, 20 years younger than them.
yeah,
So that idea, very, very few men carry that they're confident enough to be with a woman their age, or to be with a woman that looks older, or probably doesn't fit that, young girl energy.
yeah,
And I feel like that's become such a common thing because women will all the time fall for men that are older, because women look up to men that have, raised themselves up, that are self-made. But it's almost like we are these products to satisfy the male gaze. And so
mm,
we must look a certain way to feel validated or appreciated. But if I may say so, there's a demand and supply, and you can say, that it's a desire and a need in society, and that's why it's being done. But when a woman claims back her power and says that I feel beautiful in my being, the whole system is fragmented. You give birth to a girl child, and then you raise her to believe that one day she's got to go. So she's like this product that needs to now be showcased to a family. And if they
yeah.
like her, they're going to take her to their house. It's like a piece of furniture that looks beautiful in our home. We are living in modern times, but I feel like somewhere in the background, this still exists.
But it
Yeah.
does exist. I have a friend, Meher, who is from the Sindhi background, and they actually changed her name at the wedding. I still refuse to call her by this new name. I still call her by her birth year name because that's how I grew up with. And I said, why did you even allow that to happen as an educated woman?
Yeah.
But I guess she lived in a society where she accepted that with love.
But I also
Yeah,
feel like when we talk about femininity, one of the qualities is to be adaptive and flexible.
that's true.
Because I'm a mother, I do know that I will naturally hear my baby cry and rush. I will rush.
Absolutely.
Whereas maybe her dad will be more easygoing to approach her.
Yeah.
For me, a woman's system is designed to nurture the people that she loves. So, and that could also be in a man. A man could also be more feminine and go like, babe, I'm happy to take your surname, you know? But a lot of us women, we've been fighting so hard against the patriarchy that we've become rocks in some way. If women can retain those soft, flexible qualities, but at the same time be able to make those decisions for themselves and not be coerced because they can't raise their voice, that's a problem.
Yeah, love that perspective, Meher. Thank you for sharing. I want to talk about erotic embodiment. I recently saw that on your Instagram and I absolutely loved it. And I was thinking about Kama Sutra. I was a very young girl when I quietly, secretly watched Kama Sutra. Maybe I was in 12th grade. And then I actually learned about it, that it was an Hindu textbook written in Sanskrit about erotic love between probably some 400 BCE and 200 CE, whatever it's called now, by a philosopher named Vatsyayana. Kama Sutra, while it's considered a definitive work on the subject of sexual fulfillment and emotional well-being, it's just it's just isn't about sex positions. It's about embracing pleasure as a vital part of your life. Yet centuries later, we are still uncomfortable discussing it openly. And you speak so openly about this, that space where sensuality meets the sacred. So, do you think belly dancing helped you reclaim the erotic as a source of power and not shame?
I would say belly dancing has a large part to play. I'll tell you why. Because I've been doing it for years, right? It's a built practice. It's when a yogi is training their body in a certain way. And you're maintaining those balanced postures. Of course, it's also opening your body, connecting you to yourself. But it's designed for that attentive focus. That's what yoga is.
Correct.
When you choose something like belly dancing, it's designed to get you into your fluidity, to your sensuality. It's designed to get you connected to your feminine emotion. So I would say belly dancing has a large part to play, and I think I didn't know it consciously at first because for me it was just a beautiful dance form that I wanted to do. Now, question is, what invites a woman to want to study belly dance, right? Why do so many women feel attracted to belly dance?
Mm-hmm.
Why do so many women feel attracted to like healed, sensual, and pole dancing? And because there is inherently inside women a desire to feel both sensuality and strength. And these
Mm,
two are connected to each other. When women are more sensual, they feel stronger in themselves. When women are disconnected or are rejecting their sensuality, then they feel they're not fully connected to themselves. And that's where they're not able to really feel strong in a feminine way. For me, the real piece that makes me explore these subjects is actually my parents. They're very, very open minded people. We have been talking about sex and sexuality since we were young children, young teenagers, I would say. When I was 14 years old.
mm,
I said to him that, Dad, I'm keen to have a Kama Sutra. He said, okay, why don't you bring these many marks in school and I'll get you the Kama Sutra. And it worked out. I got my Kama Sutra eventually. I've been reading different versions. I think the treatise is a lot about going into the depths of what it means to look at lovemaking and pleasure as an art.
mm.
And that's just allied for me, right? I'm an artist. I see everything in life as sacred art. Whether it's
Beautiful.
gardening, whether it's gardening, or whether it's taking care of my child, or whether it's my relationships, or whether it's it's my dance. I see it's very deeply ingrained in me to look at everything as art. And the sacred aspect of it is really when you're connected to source, outside of this idea that you have to follow these rules of a religion, when you recognize that I exist because this tree exists and the tree exists because I exist, you are connected to source. You don't need to have any religion to understand that everything in nature, everything in the universe is deeply linked and connected to each other. So you don't live in that sense of isolation that, oh, I'm separate. What is not sacred? So even the flowers bloom because fornication and pollination and all of that is happening. So love making is happening in every little aspect of the universe. No creation is possible without the coming together of polarity, two polar forces. It's not possible. So when talk about these topics very openly, I firstly have to thank the background and the family that I come from. Secondly, it's being able to have been in my body so much through the years. Thirdly, it's been all the exposure and the travel. And then fourthly, it's a curiosity and a deep, deep desire to also bring this awareness to other women. It's like I know the benefits of living in my body fully. Why would I not want to share that gift with other women? Sometimes it comes at the cost of listening to people say all kinds of crap things and, a lot of like negative comments and like criticism. But I'll tell you something, the antidote to negative critique is to actually feel at rest and at peace in your body.
Yeah.
Because when you are completely comfortable with who you are, body, mind, and spirit, people can say as many negative things and it just doesn't penetrate you. I don't need to be having an orgasm to feel pleasurable. I am at ease and in pleasure and in ananda in my body all the time.
Wow.
So nobody can say anything to take that away from me because that's my commitment to myself. So even if something's hurt me or if I'm in pain, that is a transient, that is a momentary emotional state. But that doesn't take me away from the pleasure and the enjoyment and the connection that I feel with my body.
Wow, that is incredible take, Meher. Like, I think I have learned a lot today. When you spoke about like these two forces, we are there because of them, they are there because of us. This is going to stick with me for a very long time. I was reading about a study, Meher, and 81% of women said that they feel disconnected from their bodies due to societal expectations. And you've probably heard that way more than I have. And dance, especially because we're talking about the sensual forms, is one of the few tools proven to rebuild that connection, like you just mentioned. So, belly dancing is often uh, hyper sexualized by society. Have you experienced that there has been a battle that you fought against this perception when you initially started?
Yeah, I'll be very honest with you. I have a tendency to see the possibility in a problem. It's just the way I'm wired. I'm wired to see, okay, if I'm breaking up with somebody or if this relationship is ending or that project is not working out, what is happening here that could look like not an ending but could look like a starting of something else or a beginning of something else. When I moved to India in 2006 after living in the Middle East for 17 years, India was complex because people care about things like what's your caste, really strange things. And I was, oh my God, what is this? How do I answer these questions? I felt so alienated. I felt less like an alien living in the Middle East than I feel living in India.
Yeah.
When I started to promote myself as a belly dancer, one of the things that I was often met by was, why should we give an Indian a slot for belly dance if we can have like a Russian or a Ukrainian? So one of the things clearly was that because I was brown skinned, I didn't go through racism. I was torn down for brown skin in my own country. I found that to be so strange. I was like, wow, maybe because I have a good skill and maybe because I'm a very talented dancer, maybe that's why you should give me work, not because I am not white. And then slowly, when work did start coming in, one of the things that I definitely faced was, so what else can we have in the package besides dancing? You know, like what other services do you provide besides dancing?
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is my reaction exactly. And I ended up probably being a very potty mouthed kind of person because I'll be honest, I had to protect myself. And I felt like when you used foul language, it was just easier to protect yourself. Like it just felt like that's the language that men understood.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And it made me harsh, it made me mean, it made me rude. But I realized if it protects me, then maybe this is what I have to do for myself. These sexual connotations and comments on my skin color was probably the worst. And my weight through the years has been changing. You become a mom, your body changes, you lose weight, your body changes. And I've realized you can never please anybody.
I saw you that time. Oh my gosh. That pregnant body was so gorgeous. I saw you doing the dancing. It was
Exactly.
incredible.
For the eyes that are accepting of change, they are going to see a person's journey. They're not going to be stuck on, oh, you need to be that body, that shape, that size. And it also happened to me on reality shows. One of the missions on a reality show was, how can we help Meher's body get better till the end of the show? And there were comments on it all the time. That became such a hot topic. It was in good spirit. But why was it given so much attention? I was not modeling. And today, models can be of all sizes. I was not on a physical transformation show. I was not on a fitness show. I was on a dance show. So the
Right.
question is, did my dancing do its job? Yes, that begins at home. When you felt insecure in your own home for being maybe a little overweight or a little underweight, or the family's calling you, you're like a toothpick or so skinny. When those unsafe spaces are created at home, I feel like we continue to feel unsafe in the world about our bodies.
Yes.
When you are made to feel safe about your body in your household, you're just like, okay, let them just say whatever they want to say. My head has been very much placed on my shoulders because of that foundation. That's a sense of security. We keep fighting to find security in the world because we don't find it in our homes.
So true. I mean, I have body shamed my own self for years. It kind of started doing it to myself. And I came to a realization, what the hell am I doing? I have two boys to raise and they're watching me. It's a great lesson for the audience. So true. I was thinking about the Beyonce's Renaissance tour. I heard in a news article that every woman left feeling like a goddess. And I thought, like, that's embodiment. But
Yeah,
imagine
yes.
that power being activated daily, not just at concerts. That's what you are teaching, Meher. So, do you think men are threatened by women who are completely in control of their bodies? Why is feminine power so feared?
When you talk about Beyonce, she is exuberating feminine energy. She's like, nothing's impossible for her. These women are powerful in every sense of the word. Who knows what her challenges are? Who knows what she goes through? But what she's been able to create for herself is grand. It's massive. And I feel any woman in her power is able to do that in different ways. There's this old piece of music by Hari Prasad Chaurasia where in the beginning of the piece, there's a little excerpt that's a voiceover. Someone's asking, why have women been oppressed? So another voice says, when you're scared of the tiger, what do you do with it? You cage the tiger.
Hmm.
Anything that is anything that is scary, ununderstandable, is caged, is controlled.
Hmm.
I don't think it's just that women have a control over their bodies. I don't like that word. I think women are unpredictable.
Yeah.
And women have ferocious appetites for life. Women want to live fully, women want to feel fully, women want to dance, and women want to be loved, to be protected fiercely. Women are inherently wild. Even in nature, when you see, even in nature, when you see the feminine, she has a sense of pride or a way she interacts with the masculine. So when she's that unpredictable, when she can't be controlled, that is threatening because he can't make sense of that wildness. Because the story we've been told is that the woman always needs a man, right? If she's a woman in herself and when she doesn't need a man per se, she makes a choice, that is very threatening to a man because men want to feel needed.
Yeah.
So when she's in her power fully, that is ununderstandable to a man because now he can't solve her problems. She doesn't bring any problems. And so that is something very threatening when she's very embodied and she's living her life the way that she wants to live. But that's where the dialogue has to change because a woman that's fully embodied is going to consciously choose a man, but not choose a man because she's insecure, because she needs safety, because she needs a stable life. She's going to choose a man out of choice.
Hmm.
It's true that a fully embodied woman, very difficult to have steady relationships, very difficult to have men that are able to nurture her, but also allow her to be free.
Yeah.
It has been
And
such a
rare.
part of my life.
Absolutely. Thank you. This was so helpful. And I love this conversation so much. I wanted to talk about revenue. The arts aren't seen as real business in most places. So, how did you turn your passion into a sustainable, profitable brand?
Always believed in I've always believed in the idea that we create our niche. So instead of walking alongside the rhythm of society, I've always believed to do something in opposition to that. Not out of rebellion, but it can be another path. It doesn't have to be the path less taken. When you look at yourself as a unique frequency, as a unique perspective, and when you bring that into the world with absolute belief and confidence, anything can be converted into a business. And when it comes to money, I feel you limit yourself by deciding how much money can be made. But the universe is not speaking the language of lack, the universe is speaking the language of abundance. So ask for what you want and then embody what it takes. If you want to be someone that doesn't have monetary problems and is really financially abundant, embody that. It starts in your belief system, in your nervous system. What you believe is what becomes a reality. For me, I've grown exponentially, you know, period by period by period. And as my own worth for myself increases, what I earn financially also increases. And you got to understand that bringing in financial abundance and success will also come at certain risks, at certain costs.
Hmm.
Because when you want to make the money that you're hoping to make, you are going to lose out on restful time. You might lose time with family. You might lose time with hobbies. So you have to set that kind of like space for yourself and analyze.
Yeah.
I am super level headed about how much money I want to make. When I hit those targets for myself, I'm like, okay, that's the kind of work that I want to do. I don't fall into the trap of more, more, more. Because that more comes at the cost of compromising my health, at the cost of not spending time with my daughter, at the cost of not being able to have free time. So you got to embody the frequency and you got to be very clear about how much money you want to make. If you see your dance as energy, everything has a market. The only thing limiting you is yourself. I mean, I made belly dance a household name in a country like India because
Yes.
nothing limited me.
Yep, absolutely. Art is so magical. Art is something that defines this culture, defines people in general. Uh, Meher, what's one financial mistake artists and entrepreneurs make when trying to monetize their craft?
I think that one thing that artists really suffer with is not being able to use their logical, analytical brain. They tend to use their emotional brain a lot. They tend to be very much in the creative pursuit. And I feel like that's how artists limit themselves.
Right.
And oh, I don't think I deserve that much. It's not okay to charge that much. You define your worth. You define your worth. You don't have to charge what other people are charging. You define your worth.
Yeah.
You know how much you've invested into it. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest mistake, that there's so much pride for artists in their incapability to do business that they continue to carry that dialogue. What if you could change that dialogue and say, I have a great art, I'm a great artist, it's a great art product, and I believe that this art product deserves that much money, and it really is that valuable and unique and special. So how can I now embody all the qualities that make it that valuable, also being able to sell my art?
Mm,
There is that, artist syndrome where you tend to stay in very limited resources, but you take a lot of pride in your art. This actually is a very righteous ego thing. I'm an artist. And so now artist is equated to being poor. Art needs to express beauty and aesthetic, but art also needs to be remunerated.
yeah. Yeah. And I feel that sometimes talented people confuse visibility and viability just because they think they're posting every day or they're doing this every single day, they're building a business. And I've seen that the biggest financial mistake a creative makes is waiting for their craft to go viral instead of giving it.
Exactly. Now it should go viral versus taking out the time to be like, okay, how can I market it? How can I pitch my work to different places? How can
So
I
true.
put myself out there versus
Hmm.
thinking I'm good enough and people are going to find me? I had shared something about this on my Instagram recently where effort doesn't require talent. So you don't need to have talent to put in the effort to get your work out. Your voice as an artist is already unique. So now
Yeah,
believe in that unique voice and make an effort to get the voice out.
yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Artists can be procrastinators and can be lazy. Science also backs this up. Artistic people are lazy people.
So I'll tell you a recent incident. I went to one of the farmers market in the summer last year where this incredible artist had these marvelous paintings. I had never seen an art like that. I got back to him. He quoted me a very big price compared to what he quoted me at that day. I refused. I contacted him after 3 months. Hey, did that art sell? And he's like, no, looks like it's waiting for you.
When an artist makes art, it is
Yeah,
a spontaneous expression of their
it is.
spirit. Now, if I share my love with you and it
Yeah,
arises out of that spontaneity, how can we
yeah.
put a price to it? Even when you start to sell your art, there are certain compromises you make.
And the sad part was that he actually stopped making art. He moved to a different city. And I asked him what happened. And he's like, this was just not working out. And I've not seen such a great artist. Very,
Many artists stop working because of this.
yeah.
See that?
It was really painful to see. And I just have one last question. How do you balance artist integrity with financial success without selling out?
That's a big one. So I think an artist needs to first realize and sit with what is the impact that they want their art to have on the world. If you're going to be very clueless about that, it's going to be easy for the system and for people to push you into uncomfortable places. You can be a pushover and end up doing things that you don't want to do. It happens in Bollywood all the time, right? You hear about the casting couch, you hear for
Yes.
like opportunities, people would do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even before we bring our art into the world, we have to question what type of a person we are, and we have to enumerate what our values are. A lot of deep introspection is required as an artist. When you're clear, you will now not just fall into these traps. For example, when I was on a reality show, I was convinced that I wanted to do a belly dance Odissi fusion on Vande Mataram. And I remember when I proposed this, the channel, the production, everybody said to me, they'll throw stones on our office because how can you use the national song to showcase belly dance in Odissi? I said, I'm 100% convinced, and that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise, you can throw me out of the show. And to date, when people meet me, will always say that piece was one of the most beautiful creations we ever saw.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And connecting to your own authentic voice and then understanding what are you willing to compromise and what are you not willing to compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. You must be right.
I think it was probably Einstein who said it, that it's not the strongest or the fastest that survives, it's the most adaptive.
Yeah, yeah,
Being adaptive will actually make your art better
totally. And I
because
think
you're ready to receive
non-negotiable.
perspectives that will impact your art.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can evolve your craft for the market without abandoning your core, right? If
Yes.
people think of it as expansion, not compromise, they will get the message because you're not selling out if you are still showing up as you. Making money from your message is not betrayal, it is power.
Yeah.
And I feel people just need to realize their worth and their, moment on
we
how
need
they
we need a
take their.
break we need to break away from these self-limiting beliefs. That's the way to start. When we break away from self-limiting beliefs, we make more money, we have better relationships, have better friendships, have more time.
Yeah, thank you, Meher. This was such an incredible episode. Before we wrap up, I have an extremely fun non-Karan Johar rapid fire round. If you're excited, if you're ready for it, I
Let's
would
do it.
love to go for it. All right, let's do the rapid fire. Quick, quirky, and fun. The most powerful lesson dancing has taught you.
Be like a rose that yields perfume even by the hands that crush it.
Oh, I love that so much. Sex appeal versus self-expression. What's the difference?
Sex appeal um is a lot about the outside, and self expression is a lot about the inside. So for me, sex appeal is to prove a point, self expression is to be truthful to yourself,
That's incredible. It should be like a quote somewhere. I would wear a t shirt out of it. One financial decision that changed your life.
is to stop seeing money as it is limited.
One piece of business advice you wish more artists knew.
Do not focus on developing the right and the left brain. So the creative brain, but also the analytical brain.
What's more powerful, confidence or skill?
Well, both.
A cultural stereotype about women you'd love to erase forever.
That women don't enjoy pleasure as much as men do, or don't need it as much as men do.
If you weren't a dancer, what would you be doing today?
I'd be a social worker.
Love that. Meher, thank you so much again. Your journey is a proof that movement isn't just about the body, it's about breaking limits, breaking stereotypes, and breaking free. Society profits off women not knowing their power. But the moment we own our bodies, our voices, our presence, we become unstoppable. And that's what Meher has done. This episode isn't just about dancing, it's about reclaiming space, rejecting fear, and redefining that power. If this hit home for you, share it, subscribe it, and let's get this conversation going. Until next time, keep creating, keep pushing, and keep breaking the system from the inside out. This is the Niya Desai Show where the boldest minds reveal the biggest success secrets. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, love. Thank you for